I sat in my living room last Christmas, watching the security camera as 3 cars pulled up to my gate. My children, their children, all of them expecting to walk right in, the way they always had. I pressed the button on the intercom. My hand was steady. "I'm sorry," I said, "but you can't come in." That's not where this story begins, though. It begins much earlier, in a 2-bedroom apartment in Portland, with flour on my hands and a baby on my hip. Hello. My name is Dorothy Collins. I'm 73 years old, and I've lived in Portland, Oregon my entire life. People call me Dottie, but my children used to call me Mom. Used to. I'm telling you this story because I need someone to understand what happened. Not to judge, not to pick sides, just to understand. I was born here in 1952. Portland wasn't what it is now. The streets were quieter. Houses were smaller. People knew their neighbors. My parents ran a small grocery store on Hawthorne Street. I grew up stacking cans and sweeping floors after school. I learned early that work meant something. That showing up meant something. I met Robert when I was 19. He was 22, working construction. He came into the store every Friday afternoon. Always bought the same thing: a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a quart of milk. He was shy. Took him 6 weeks to ask for my number. We married 8 months later in a small ceremony at the courthouse. My mother cried. My father shook Robert's hand and told him to take care of me. Robert did take care of me. For 37 years, we lived modestly. A small apartment first, then a tiny house in southeast Portland. Robert worked long hours, framing houses, pouring concrete, whatever the job required. His hands were always rough, calloused, but they were gentle when he held our babies. Sarah came first. Born in 1975, 2 weeks early. She had my eyes and Robert's stubbornness. David followed in 1977. He was quieter, thoughtful. Amy arrived in 1981, our surprise baby. She was the easy one. Or so I thought then. I stayed home with them. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was what I wanted. I made their lunches every morning. Peanut butter and jelly for Sarah, turkey for David, cheese for Amy. I cut the crusts off until they were old enough to tell me to stop. I walked them to school, walked them back. I was there for every scraped knee, every bad dream, every school play. Robert and I didn't have much money, but we made it work. I sewed Halloween costumes by hand. A ghost for Sarah, a robot for David, a butterfly for Amy. I learned to stretch a chicken across 3 dinners. I clipped coupons, bought day-old bread, made birthday cakes from scratch. The house always smelled like something baking. I remember Sarah's 8th birthday. She wanted a princess castle cake. I'd never made anything like that before. I stayed up until 2 in the morning, building turrets from ice cream cones, using toothpicks to hold the whole thing together. When Sarah saw it the next morning, she cried. Happy tears. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "You're the best mom in the world," she said. I believed her. David was my reader. Every night I sat on the edge of his bed and read to him. Charlotte's Web, The Chronicles of Narnia, Where the Red Fern Grows. Even after he could read on his own, he wanted me there. He wanted my voice, not his own. I didn't mind. Those were my favorite moments. The house quiet, the lamp glowing, my sons breathing slow and steady as the story unfolded. Amy was different. She didn't need me the same way. Or maybe she just didn't show it. She was independent from the start. Dressed herself at 3, made her own breakfast at 5. She was always a little distant, even as a child. But I told myself that was okay. That children didn't all show love the same way. Robert worked hard to give them opportunities. He took extra shifts, weekends, holidays. He missed some recitals, some games, but he was doing it for them. For us, he opened a savings account for each child. Put a little away every month. Not much, but something. I was always there though. Every piano recital, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference. I volunteered in their classrooms. I chaperoned field trips. I baked cookies for every school fundraiser. The teachers knew me by name. The other mothers knew me. I was that mom, the one who showed up. When Sarah got into college, Robert and I were so proud. We couldn't afford to pay for everything, but we helped where we could. Books, a used car, gas money. Sarah studied marketing. She was smart, driven. She called home every Sunday her first year. Then every other Sunday. Then once a month. "I'm just so busy, Mom," she'd say. You understand. I did understand. Or I tried to. David went into finance. He moved to Seattle for work, came home for holidays. Amy stayed closer, worked as a dental hygienist here in Portland. She visited more than the others, but even her visits became sporadic over time. Robert and I settled into a rhythm. Sunday dinners with whoever could make it. Phone calls. Birthday cards. We were aging, but we were together. That was enough. Then Robert had his heart attack. It was a Tuesday morning. October 15, 2013. He was 62. We were drinking coffee at the kitchen table, talking about nothing important. The rain outside. A leaking gutter. He stood up to refill his cup, and he just stopped. His hand went to his chest. His face went gray. I called 911. I held his hand in the ambulance. I sat in the waiting room at the hospital while doctors worked on him. Sarah, David, and Amy all came. They stood around his bed. They said goodbye. He died at 447 that afternoon. The funeral was small. Robert wouldn't have wanted anything big. The kids helped me plan it. They held my hands. They told me everything would be okay. "We'll take care of you, Mom," Sarah said. "We promise." I believed her. The first year after Robert died was hard. The house felt too big. Too quiet. I'd find myself setting 2 coffee cups on the counter in the morning, then realizing my mistake. I'd reach for his hand in bed at night and find empty space. But the kids called. They checked in. Sunday dinners started up again, at least for a while. It felt like we were a family. Like we'd get through this together. I didn't know then that grief has a shelf life. That eventually people move on. They go back to their lives, their jobs, their own families. They expect you to move on too. I didn't know that things were about to change. Looking back now, I can see the signs. The phone calls getting shorter. The excuses piling up. The questions that started to feel less like concern and more like inventory. "How are you doing with the house, Mom? Is it too much for you? Have you thought about what you want to do with Dad's things? You know, we should probably talk about your plans. You know, for the future." I didn't see it then. I was too lonely to see it. Too desperate to hold on to what little family I had left. But I see it now. And that's why last Christmas, when those 3 cars pulled up to my gate, I didn't let them in. This is the story of how I got there. How a woman who spent 50 years putting everyone else first finally learned to put herself first. How I lost my family and found something else instead. It's not a happy story. Not entirely. But it's mine. And maybe, when you hear it, you'll understand why I did what I did. Why I closed the gate. Why I said no. And why, for the first time in my life, I didn't apologize for it. The first year after Robert died, the house was full again. Not full like it used to be, with Robert's laugh and the smell of his coffee, but full with my children. Sarah drove down from Seattle every other week. David called twice a week. Amy stopped by on Sundays, sometimes brought groceries. I wasn't alone, or so I thought. The life insurance came through 6 months after Robert died. It was more than I expected. Robert had always been careful about those things. He'd increased his policy when the kids were young, never decreased it. There was also his 401k, his pension from the union, and our savings. We'd paid off the house 10 years earlier. I did the math with the financial advisor. I was comfortable, more than comfortable. I could live on this for the rest of my life and still have something left over. "You're in good shape, Mrs. Collins," the advisor said. He was young, maybe 40. "Wore a wedding ring. Your husband took care of you. Robert had taken care of me. Even in death. The house itself had increased in value too. We'd bought it in 1983 for $45,000. Now, in 2014, it was worth over $400,000. Portland had changed. The neighborhood had changed. Young families were moving in, tearing down old houses, building new ones. I didn't want to move though. This was my home, Robert's home. Every room held a memory. Sunday dinners became our routine. I'd start cooking Saturday night. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, apple pie for dessert. The same meals I'd made when they were children. Sarah would bring her husband Tom and their 2 daughters, Emma and Sophie. David would come alone. He'd divorced 2 years earlier, no kids. Amy would bring her boyfriend, whatever boyfriend she had at the time. We'd sit around the table. The girls would tell me about school. Tom would talk about his job in tech. David would be quiet, like always. Amy would check her phone. But we were together. That's what mattered. Those Sunday dinners lasted about 18 months. It started small. Sarah called one Saturday afternoon. "Mom, we can't make it tomorrow. Sophie has a soccer game." "Oh," I said. "That's okay. What time is the game? Maybe I could come watch." There was a pause. "It's in Seattle, Mom. Pretty far for you to drive." "I don't mind. I'd love to see her play. Maybe another time. It's just a regular season game. Nothing special." Another time never came. The next week David had a work thing. The week after, Amy wasn't feeling well. Then Sarah had a birthday party to attend. Then David was traveling. Then Amy had plans with her boyfriend. I started to notice a pattern. They were busy. They had lives. I understood that, but I'd had a life too once. And I'd always made time for them. I tried not to be that mother. The needy one. The one who guilted her children into visiting. So I smiled when they canceled. I said I understood. I told them we'd see each other soon. I started calling them instead, just to talk. Nothing important. Just to hear their voices. Sarah's phone went to voicemail more often than not. "Hey Mom, sorry I missed you. Things are crazy at work. I'll call you back." She usually didn't. David answered, but our conversations grew shorter. "How are you doing, sweetheart?" "Good, Mom. Busy. How are you?" "I'm fine. I was thinking maybe you could come for dinner next weekend. I'll make your favorite. I'll have to check my schedule and get back to you." He never got back to me. Amy was the most honest. Maybe that made it worse. "Mom, you call me every day. It's a lot. I'm sorry. I just wanted to check in." "I know, but I'm at work. I can't always talk. I could call at a different time. When is good for you?" "Mom." Her voice was sharp. "I'll call you when I have time, okay?" I stopped calling every day. Started calling every other day. Then twice a week. Then once a week. The space between our conversations grew wider. I filled my days other ways. I joined a book club at the library. Read mysteries mostly, sometimes romance. I took walks in the morning around the neighborhood. I watched TV in the evening. Game shows. Cooking competitions. Anything with voices. The house felt bigger without Robert. Bigger without the kids. I'd walk from room to room sometimes, just to feel like I was going somewhere. I started noticing things about their calls when they did call. The tone. The questions. How's the house holding up, Mom? Any problems? Are you keeping up with the maintenance? The yard? You know, it might be too much for you to handle alone. And then, one Sunday in early 2016, Sarah called with a new question. Mom, have you thought about your estate planning? You know, what you want to do with your assets? Assets. That's the word she used. I haven't really thought about it, I said. I'm only 67. I'm healthy. I know, but Dad died young. We should be prepared. Prepared for what? For anything, Mom. That's all I'm saying. I let it go. But the question stayed with me. 2 weeks later David brought it up. Sarah mentioned estate planning. I think it's smart to have those conversations now. You've been talking to Sarah about this? We're your kids, Mom. We care about your future. My future. Not our relationship. My future. Amy mentioned it too, but in her own way. You're sitting on a lot of equity, Mom. Have you thought about downsizing? You could get a condo, something easier to maintain. Free up some cash. Free up some cash. For what? For whom? I started to see the pattern. The calls weren't really about me. They were about inventory, assessment, planning. I was a problem to be managed. I tried to bring them back. I really did. I invited them for Thanksgiving. Made all their favorites. Turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce from scratch. Pumpkin pie and pecan pie. I set the table with the good china, the dishes we'd only used for holidays. Sarah came but left early. Client emergency. David didn't come at all. Forgot, he said later. Got the date wrong. Amy came, ate quickly, and left to meet her boyfriend's family. I ate leftovers for a week. Threw most of it away. Christmas was worse. I bought gifts for everyone. Books for the girls. A wallet for Tom. A sweater for David. A necklace for Amy. I wrapped them carefully, wrote cards. They sent gift cards. Amazon. Starbucks. No cards. I stood in my living room on Christmas morning, looking at the tree I'd decorated alone. The presents I'd wrapped alone. The stockings hanging empty above the fireplace. Robert would have known what to do. Robert would have called them, told them to get their act together. But Robert was gone, and I was too afraid of losing them completely to say what I really felt. So I sent thank you texts for the gift cards. Thank you so much. Just what I needed. I added smiley faces. Made it seem like everything was fine. By the spring of 2017, Sunday dinners were a memory. We saw each other on holidays, if schedules allowed. Phone calls came once a month, maybe. Text messages were shorter. How are you? Good. You? Good. That was it. That was our relationship. I joined a quilting group. Met a woman named Helen who'd lost her husband too. We had coffee every Thursday. She talked about her kids. How they never called. How they only wanted something when they did. You're lucky, she said once. Your kids still talk to you. I nodded. Smiled. Didn't tell her that talking wasn't the same as connecting. I started to feel something I hadn't felt before. Something I didn't want to name. Anger. Not loud anger. Not the kind that breaks dishes or slams doors. Quiet anger. The kind that sits in your chest and grows heavier every time you pick up the phone and hear the impatience in their voices. The kind that makes you wonder if you were just a role to them. The mother, the caretaker, the source. And now that you weren't useful anymore, you were just an obligation. I pushed the thoughts away. Told myself I was being unfair. They were busy. They had lives. This was normal. This was what happened when children grew up. But Robert's voice was in my head sometimes. They should do better, Dottie. You deserve better. I missed him so much it hurt. Not just because I loved him, but because he would have fought for me. And I didn't know how to fight for myself. I lay in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, and made a decision. I would try one more time. One more real effort. A proper conversation. Not about estate planning or house maintenance. About us. About family. I would tell them how I felt. I would be honest. I would ask them to be better. And if they couldn't, if they wouldn't. I didn't finish the thought. Not yet. But something was changing in me. Something I'd kept buried for years. I was starting to realize that being a mother didn't mean accepting whatever scraps of attention my children chose to give me. That love should go both ways. And that maybe, just maybe, I deserved more than this. The pain started on a Tuesday night in June. I was washing dishes. The kitchen window was open. I could hear birds outside, the neighbors' wind chimes. It was a normal evening. Ordinary. Then my chest tightened. At first I thought it was heartburn. I'd had spaghetti for dinner, too much tomato sauce. I pressed my hand to my sternum, waited for it to pass. It didn't pass. The tightness spread. Up into my jaw. Down my left arm. I gripped the edge of the sink. The water was still running. A plate slipped from my hand, clattered against the stainless steel. I thought about Robert, how his face had gone gray. How he'd touched his chest, just like I was doing now. I turned off the water. Dried my hands. Walked to the phone. My fingers shook as I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I think I'm having a heart attack. My voice was calm, steady. Isn't that strange? The most frightening moment of my life, and I sounded like I was ordering groceries. Are you alone, ma'am? Yes. Can you unlock your front door and wait for the paramedics? I unlocked the door, sat down on the couch. The pain was still there, pressing against my ribs. I tried to breathe slowly. In through my nose, out through my mouth. The way they teach you in yoga classes. I'd never taken a yoga class. The paramedics arrived in 7 minutes. 2 men, both young. One had kind eyes. The other was efficient, clinical. They asked questions while they checked my vitals. Blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen levels. We're going to take you to the hospital, Mrs. Collins. Okay. Is there anyone we should call? Family? I'll call them from the hospital. I didn't want to worry them yet. Didn't want to bother them. What if it was nothing? The ambulance ride was strange. I'd never been in an ambulance before. The ceiling was white. There were cabinets, equipment, lights. Everything clean and organized. The siren was muffled from inside, more of a sensation than a sound. The kind-eyed paramedic held my hand. You're doing great, Mrs. Collins. We'll be there in just a few minutes. I wanted to tell him that I was scared. That I didn't want to die alone in an ambulance. That my husband had died in a hospital and I couldn't go through that again. But I just nodded. The emergency room was bright. Too bright. Fluorescent lights that made everything feel artificial. Nurses moved quickly. Doctors appeared and disappeared. Someone put an IV in my arm. Someone else attached electrodes to my chest. They ran tests. EKG. Blood work. Chest X-ray. I waited. Waiting is the worst part. Your mind fills the silence with possibilities. Heart attack, stroke, something worse. You think about all the things you haven't said, haven't done. All the time you've wasted. A doctor came eventually. She was young, younger than Sarah. She had her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Mrs. Collins, the good news is you're not having a heart attack. Relief flooded through me. What is it then? We're not entirely sure yet. Could be anxiety. Could be acid reflux. Could be costochondritis, inflammation of the cartilage. We'd like to keep you overnight for observation, run a few more tests in the morning. Overnight? Just as a precaution. You're 70 years old and you have a family history of heart disease. We want to be thorough. 70. When had I become 70? They moved me to a room on the 4th floor. It was small. One bed, one chair, a window that looked out at the parking lot. The walls were pale blue. There was a TV mounted on the wall, but I didn't turn it on. It was 9:30 p.m. when they settled me in. I called Sarah first. It went to voicemail. Hi honey, it's Mom. I'm at the hospital. Nothing serious, they think. They're just keeping me overnight. Call me when you get this. I tried to keep my voice light. Didn't want to alarm her. I called David next. Voicemail again. David, it's Mom. I'm at the hospital for observation. I'm fine, just wanted to let you know. Call me if you can. Amy answered on the 3rd ring. Mom? What's wrong? I'm at the hospital, sweetie. I had some chest pain. The doctors say it's probably nothing, but they want to keep me overnight. Oh my God. Are you okay? I'm fine. Really. I just didn't want to be alone and not tell anyone. Which hospital? Providence, Portland. Okay. I'll try to come by tomorrow morning before work. You don't have to do that. I know you're busy. Mom, you're in the hospital. I'll come by. Thank you, honey. We hung up. I felt a little better. Amy was coming. I wouldn't be completely alone. I texted Sarah and David the same message, at Providence, Portland, room 412. Fine, just overnight observation. Love you. Then I lay back on the thin hospital pillow and waited. The night was long. Nurses came in every few hours to check my vitals. The blood pressure cuff squeezed my arm. The thermometer beeped. Everything was measured, recorded, written down. I watched the clock. 11 p.m. Midnight. 1 a.m. I checked my phone. No calls. One text from Sarah at 11:47 p.m. Just saw your message. Glad you're okay. Keep me posted. Nothing from David. I tried to sleep, but hospital beds are impossible. Too firm. Too narrow. The pillow too flat. And there were sounds. Beeping machines. Footsteps in the hallway. Someone moaning in another room. I thought about Robert. How I'd sat by his bed, held his hand. How I'd told him I loved him, that everything would be okay. How I'd lied because I didn't know what else to do. I thought about my children. How I'd sit by their beds when they were sick. Cold washcloths on their foreheads. Water in small sips. Stories to distract them from the discomfort. I was sick now, and I was alone. Morning came slowly. Gray light through the window. A nurse brought breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Everything tasted like cardboard. The doctor came at 8 a.m. Different doctor, older this time. Good morning, Mrs. Collins. How are you feeling? Better. The pain is gone. That's good. We ran all the tests. Your heart looks fine. EKG is normal. Blood work is normal. I think you experienced a panic attack or possibly severe acid reflux. A panic attack? It's more common than you think. Especially in people who've experienced trauma or loss. Have you been under any stress lately? I almost laughed. Stress. Was loneliness stress? Was being slowly erased from your children's lives stress? Some, I said. Well, I'm going to write you a prescription for antacids and suggest you follow up with your primary care doctor. If it happens again, don't hesitate to come back. Thank you. He left. A nurse came in to remove my IV, go over discharge instructions. Is someone picking you up? She asked. My daughter is coming. Great. You're all set then. I checked my phone. 8:47 a.m. No missed calls. One text from Amy at 6:30 a.m. Sorry mom, got called in early for an emergency. Can't make it to the hospital. You okay to get home on your own? I stared at the message. Read it twice. I typed back, that's okay. I'll take a taxi. Thanks for understanding. Love you. I called Sarah. Voicemail. Left a message. Hi honey, I'm being discharged. All the tests came back fine. Nothing to worry about. Talk to you soon. I called David. Voicemail. Left the same message. I got dressed. The same clothes I'd worn yesterday. They smelled like hospital now. Antiseptic and fear. I took a taxi home. $23. The driver didn't talk. I was grateful. The house was exactly as I'd left it. The dishes still in the sink. The plate I'd dropped still sitting there. I finished washing them, put them away, made myself tea. I sat at the kitchen table and waited for my phone to ring. It didn't ring. Sarah called 2 days later. Thursday evening. Hey mom. Sorry I didn't call sooner. Work has been insane. That's okay. I'm fine. All the tests came back clear. That's great. So it wasn't your heart? No. Doctor thinks it might have been acid reflux or anxiety. Anxiety? What are you anxious about? I could have told her then. Could have said I'm anxious because I'm alone. Because my husband is dead and my children have disappeared. Because I spent a night in the hospital and none of you came. But I didn't. I don't know. Just getting older, I guess. Well, you should talk to your doctor about it. Maybe get some medication. Maybe. There was a pause. Then her voice changed. Became more careful. So, Mom, while I have you on the phone. Tom and I were talking. Have you thought any more about the house? The house. Not how are you feeling? Not were you scared? The house. What about the house? Well, it's a lot for you to manage. Especially if you're having health issues. We're just worried about you being there alone. I'm fine. I know, but what if something happens? What if you fall? What if you have another episode and can't get to the phone? I managed fine this time. This time, Mom. But we might not be so lucky next time. Lucky. Her words, not mine. What are you suggesting, Sarah? I'm just saying maybe it's time to think about downsizing. There are some really nice senior communities. Safe, social, medical staff on site. I'm not moving to a nursing home. It's not a nursing home, Mom. It's independent living. I'm independent now. I know, but, she sighed. Look, we don't have to decide anything today. Just think about it, okay? And maybe we should talk about your will too. Make sure everything is in order. There it was again. My will. My assets. My estate. I'll think about it, I said. Thanks, Mom. I love you. I love you too. I hung up. Stared at the phone. David called an hour later. Same conversation. Different words. You should really have someone check on you regularly. Have you thought about a medical alert system? What's your plan if something serious happens? We should probably look at your finances, make sure everything is organized. Amy texted on Friday. Glad you're okay. We should set up a family meeting soon. Talk about plans. Plans. Everyone wanted to talk about plans. No one wanted to talk about me. I sat in my living room that night, in the dark. I didn't turn on the TV. Didn't read. Just sat. And I understood something I'd been avoiding for a long time. I wasn't a mother to them anymore. I was a liability. A responsibility. A future problem to be managed. The chest pain hadn't been my heart. But my heart was breaking anyway. I called a family meeting. That's what I said in the group text. Family meeting. This Sunday. 2 p.m. Please come. It's important. Sarah responded first. Can we do a video call instead? Driving down is tough right now. David, what's this about? Amy, is everything okay? I typed carefully. I need to talk to all of you. In person. Please. They agreed. Eventually. Reluctantly. Sunday came. I cleaned the house. Made coffee. Put out cookies on a plate. The good cookies from the bakery, not homemade. I didn't have the energy for homemade. I rehearsed what I would say. How I felt invisible. How the hospital night had hurt. How I needed them to show up, not just for my assets, but for me. I would be calm. Rational. I would use I statements. I feel. I need. I want. Sarah arrived at 215. Tom and the girls stayed in the car. They're tired from soccer, she said. This won't take long, right? David came at 220. He looked at his watch when he walked in. Amy arrived at 230 with her new boyfriend, Marcus. I'd never met Marcus. Sorry, we're late. Traffic. There was no traffic. I'd checked. We sat in the living room. Sarah on the couch. David in the armchair. Amy and Marcus near the door, like they might leave any second. Nobody took a cookie. Thanks for coming, I said. My voice was steady. I know you're all busy. Of course, Mom. Sarah smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. What did you want to talk about? I took a breath. I wanted to talk about us. About our family. David shifted in his seat. Okay. I feel like we've drifted apart. I barely see you anymore. We barely talk. And when we do talk, it feels like, I paused, choosing my words carefully. It feels like you're managing me, not connecting with me. Silence. Sarah glanced at David. David looked at his phone. Mom, Sarah said slowly. We're not managing you. We're concerned about you. Are you? Because when I was in the hospital, none of you came. We were busy, David said. Not apologetic. Matter of fact. You were busy. I repeated his words. Let them hang in the air. Amy spoke up. Mom, we have jobs. Lives. We can't drop everything every time something happens. I'm not asking you to drop everything. I'm asking you to show up once in a while. To call me back. To remember that I exist. That's not fair. Sarah's voice had an edge now. We do call you back. Days later. Sometimes a week later. Because we're busy, Mom. Sarah was getting frustrated. I could see it in her shoulders, the way she gripped her coffee cup. We have responsibilities. Kids. Mortgages. Careers. I had all those things too. And I still made time for my parents. That was different. How? It just was. Sarah set down her cup. Look, we came here because you said it was important. Is this it? You wanted to guilt trip us about not visiting enough? No, David interrupted. Mom, we're doing the best we can. If that's not good enough for you, I don't know what to tell you. I just want to matter to you, I said quietly. Not as an obligation. Not as someone you need to manage. As your mother. You do matter to us, Amy said. But her tone was impatient. Like I was a child who needed reassurance. We love you. Then act like it. The room went cold. Sarah stood up. Okay, this is getting out of hand. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, I've been trying to stay connected to you for years, And you've been slowly erasing me from your lives. That's dramatic, David said. Is it? When's the last time any of you called just to talk? Not about my house, not about my finances, not about my health. Just to talk. Nobody answered. That's what I thought. Sarah crossed her arms. You know what, Mom? Maybe we don't call because every conversation turns into this. You guilting us. You making us feel bad for having our own lives. I'm not. Yes, you are. Sarah's voice was rising. You call constantly. You text constantly. You want us to visit every week like we're still children living at home. We're not, Mom. We're adults. We have our own families now. I know that. Do you? Because it feels like you want us to put our lives on hold to keep you company. The words hit like a slap. I don't want you to put your lives on hold. I just want to be part of your lives. You are part of our lives, David said. But we can't be everything to you. That's too much pressure. Too much pressure? I'm your mother. And we're your children, not your companions, Amy said. Her voice was softer than Sarah's but colder. You need to find other people to rely on. Other people. Friends. Activities. Hobbies. Amy shrugged. You have all this time. Use it. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This daughter I'd rocked to sleep. Whose nightmares I'd chased away. Who I'd taught to read, to ride a bike, to be kind. She was looking at me like I was a problem to solve. You think I'm too needy, I said. Amy hesitated. I think you depend on us too much for your happiness. And that's not healthy. For you or for us. Not healthy. Mom, come on. Sarah sat back down, softened her voice. We're not trying to hurt you. We're just being honest. You need to build your own life. Make your own friends. Stop expecting us to fill every gap. I felt something crack inside me. Not break. Crack. When your father died, I said slowly, you promised me you'd be there. You said, we'll take care of you, Mom. We are taking care of you, Sarah said. We call. We check in. We make sure you're okay. No, you check in on your investment. You make sure your inheritance is secure. The room went silent. Absolutely silent. David stood up. That's not fair, isn't it? Every conversation we have ends up being about my house. My finances. My will. You're not worried about me. You're worried about what happens to your inheritance. That's not true, Sarah said. But her face was red. Really? Because the day after I got out of the hospital, you asked about my house. About downsizing. About organizing my affairs. Because we're being practical, David said. His voice was cold now. Hard. Someone has to think about these things. Why? I'm 70. I'm healthy. I could live another 20 years. And if you don't? David's eyes met mine. Who deals with the mess? Who has to sort through this house, figure out your finances, handle everything? We do. So yeah, Mom, we think about it. Because it's going to fall on us. There it was. The truth. Raw and ugly. I wasn't a person to them. I was a future burden. A mess they'd have to clean up someday. Get out, I said. What? Sarah stared at me. Get out of my house. Mom, don't be ridiculous. I said get out. My voice didn't shake. All of you. David grabbed his keys. Fine. Call us when you're ready to be rational. Don't hold your breath. Sarah stood there for a moment. Like she was waiting for me to take it back. To apologize. To be the mother who smoothed everything over. I didn't move. She left. Amy lingered. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Go. She went. The door closed. I heard their cars start. Drive away. I sat on the couch and stared at the untouched cookies. Then I cried. Not delicate tears. Not quiet tears. I sobbed. The kind of crying that comes from deep in your chest, the kind that leaves you gasping. I cried for Robert, who would have protected me from this. I cried for the mother I used to be, who believed love was enough. I cried for the children I'd raised, who had grown into strangers. I cried until I had nothing left. Then I got up, washed my face, made tea, and I called Tom Brennan. Tom was Robert's friend from the union. He'd become a lawyer later in life, specialized in estate planning. He'd helped me with the paperwork after Robert died. He answered on the second ring. "Dorothy, is everything okay?" "No," I said, "it's not. Can I make an appointment?" "Of course. What's this about?" "I need to change my will." Monday morning. Tom's office was small, neat. Bookshelves full of legal texts. A desk covered in files. A window that looked out at the parking lot. He poured me coffee, sat across from me. "Tell me what's going on." I told him everything. The hospital, the phone calls, the meeting, what they'd said, how they'd looked at me. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "I'm sorry, Dorothy. That's hard. I want to remove them from my will." "Are you sure?" "Yes. This is a big decision. You can't undo it easily. And it will destroy your relationship with them." "What relationship?" "They see me as an ATM that occasionally needs maintenance." Tom nodded slowly. "Okay. If you're sure, we can do that. But let's think carefully about what you want." We spent 3 hours going through everything. The house, the life insurance, the investments, the retirement accounts. Tom explained my options: trusts, charities, conditions, protections. You could leave the house in an irrevocable trust. That means they can't force you to sell it or move. You could designate specific charities. You could set up educational funds for your grandchildren, so they benefit directly, not through their parents. I want to do all of that. All of it? Yes. The house goes into a trust that I control until I die. Then it goes to charity. Habitat for Humanity. The retirement accounts split between 3 charities. Education fund for the grandchildren, but only accessible at 18. Nothing to Sarah, David, or Amy. Tom wrote it all down. What about personal items? Photos, furniture, your mother's china? I paused. Thought about the china. My mother's wedding china. I'd always imagined Sarah having it. The grandchildren can have personal items. But not the parents. Okay. Tom looked up. This will take a few weeks to draft properly. And Dorothy? You should know. When they find out, and they will find out, this will end things with them. Completely. I know. And you're okay with that? I thought about the empty hospital room. The unanswered calls. The cold eyes. They ended it first, I said. I'm just making it official. I left Tom's office feeling strange. Not relieved. Not happy. But not broken either. On the way home, I stopped at the community center. There was a flyer on the bulletin board. Knitting circle. Wednesdays at 3 p.m. I hadn't knitted in years. I copied down the information. That night I sat in my living room. The house was quiet. The same quiet it had been for years. But it felt different now. Not empty. Just mine. I thought about Sarah, David, Amy. Wondered if they were thinking about me. Probably not. Probably back to their busy lives, their important jobs, their real families. I thought about Robert, wished he was here, but also knew that if he were, I might never have seen the truth. I picked up my phone. Looked at the family group chat. Read the messages from Sunday. David, that was insane. Sarah, she'll calm down. Give her a few days. Amy, I feel bad, but also, she was being really unfair. Sarah, she'll apologize. She always does. I stared at those words. She always does. I opened a new message. Typed carefully. I won't be apologizing. You made your feelings very clear. I'm making mine clear now. I need space to think about what kind of relationships I want in my life. Don't call or visit unless I reach out first. I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I blocked the group chat. The silence that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was possibility. The knitting circle met in the basement of St. Andrew's Church. 8 women, all over 60. Helen from my quilting group was there. She introduced me to the others. Margaret, who'd lost her husband to cancer. Linda, whose daughter had moved to Australia. Patricia, whose son called once a year. Barbara, who'd never had children but felt invisible anyway. We weren't unique, I realized. We were everywhere. Women who'd given everything and were left with almost nothing. But we had each other now. I learned to knit again. My hands remembered the movements. Loop, pull through, slip off. The rhythm was soothing. We knitted scarves for the homeless shelter. Baby blankets for the hospital. Prayer shawls for hospice patients. We talked while we knitted. About our lives. Our losses. Our children, when we could bear it. Nobody judged. Nobody told me I was being too sensitive or too needy. They just listened. You did the right thing, Helen said one Wednesday. Setting boundaries. Protecting yourself. It doesn't feel right yet. It will. Give it time. Time. I had plenty of that now. The legal documents were finalized in September. Tom called me into his office one last time. Everything is set up the way you wanted. The house is in an irrevocable trust. Your retirement accounts are designated to charities. Educational funds for Emma, Sophie, and any other grandchildren, accessible at 18. I've also added a healthcare directive and power of attorney. Who's the power of attorney? Right now it defaults to the court if you're incapacitated. Unless you want to name someone? I thought about it. Can I name you? I'm honored, Dorothy. Yes, you can. Then you. He updated the documents. I signed everything. My hand was steady. What happens now? I asked. Now? You live your life. If your children ask about your estate, you can tell them you've made arrangements. You don't owe them details. They'll be angry. Probably. But that's their problem, not yours. I left his office feeling lighter. The weight I'd been carrying for years, the weight of expectation, of guilt, of trying to be enough, was gone. I joined a book club. Started volunteering at the food bank on Fridays. Took a watercolor class at the community college. Made friends with my neighbor, Mrs. Vasquez, who was 83 and had more energy than I did. The days filled themselves. I was busy. Actually busy, not the kind of busy my children always claimed to be. The kind of busy that meant something. My children tried to reach out in October. Sarah called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Mom, it's been months. We need to talk. Please call me back. David texted. Can we get together? I think we all overreacted. Amy sent an email. Long, apologetic. I'm sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it the way it came out. I miss you. I read them all. Felt nothing. Or maybe I felt everything and it balanced out to nothing. I didn't respond. November came. Then Thanksgiving. I spent it with the knitting circle at Helen's house. We cooked together. Laughed. Told stories. Nobody's phone rang with calls from ungrateful children. We were all free. Sarah called on Thanksgiving Day. Left another voicemail. Mom, I don't understand what's happening. We're trying to reach you. The girls miss you. Please, just talk to us. The girls. My granddaughters. I felt a pang. I did miss them. But they were part of Sarah now. And Sarah had made her choices. December arrived with cold rain and early darkness. Portland winters are gray, wet, the kind of weather that makes you want to stay inside with tea and blankets. I decorated for Christmas anyway. A small tree in the living room. Lights around the windows. It was for me, not for anyone else. On December 20th, Sarah called again. This time I answered. Mom. Finally. Hello, Sarah. We've been trying to reach you for months. I know. Why haven't you responded? I needed time. There was a pause. We want to come for Christmas. All of us. Like we used to. No. What do you mean, no? I mean no. I don't want you to come. Mom, it's Christmas. And you're busy. You're always busy. You have your own family. Remember? Don't be like this. Like what? Honest? Petty. I felt anger flicker. Just for a moment. Then it passed. I'm not being petty, Sarah. I'm protecting myself. From what? Your own children? Yes. From my own children. She was quiet. Then, we're coming anyway. Christmas Eve. We'll be there at 2. Don't. We need to talk about things, Mom. Important things. Your future. Your plans. There it was again. My future. My plans. Not we miss you. Not we love you. My plans. If you come, I said calmly, I won't let you in. You're being ridiculous. Maybe. But it's my house. My gate. My choice. I hung up. Tom had suggested installing a security system when we set up the trust. If your children become aggressive about the house, you'll want protection. I'd hired a company. Cameras. An intercom system. Motion sensors. And James, a retired police officer who lived 2 streets over and was happy to have part-time work as my security consultant. I called James on December 23rd. They might show up tomorrow. Just warning you. I'll be there, he said. Christmas Eve arrived cold and clear. Rare for Portland. Blue sky. The trees bare and black against the light. I made coffee. Sat by the window. Waited. At 2:15 p.m., 3 cars pulled up to my gate. Sarah's SUV. David's sedan. Amy's hatchback. I watched them on the camera monitor. They got out. Sarah, Tom, the girls. David alone. Amy with Marcus. They stood at the gate, looking up at the camera. Sarah pressed the intercom button. Mom, we're here. Open the gate. I pressed the button to speak. I told you not to come. Mom, don't do this. It's Christmas. I know what day it is. Let us in. We drove all this way. I didn't ask you to. David stepped forward. Mom, this is getting out of hand. We need to talk. We did talk. In September. You made yourselves very clear. We were upset, Sarah said. We said things we didn't mean. No, you said exactly what you meant. And now I'm saying what I mean. You're not welcome here. David pushed the gate. It didn't budge. This is insane. This is your family. No, I said quietly. You stopped being my family when you started treating me like a problem. Amy's voice was softer. Mom, please. We're sorry. Can't we just talk? About what, Amy? About how I'm too needy. About how I should build my own life. I did that. This is my life. And you're not in it. You're really going to do this? Sarah's voice was rising now. You're going to shut us out? On Christmas? You shut me out first. You just didn't close a physical gate. Emma called out. Grandma? It's me. Can we please come in? My heart cracked. Just a little. Hi, sweetheart. I love you. But not today. Sarah pulled Emma back. This is unbelievable. You're choosing to be alone instead of with your family? I'm not alone. I have people who actually care about me. We care about you. Do you? Because I was in the hospital and nobody came. I called and nobody answered. I existed only when you needed to discuss my assets. David tried to climb the gate. James appeared from the side of the house. Sir, I need you to step back. David froze. Who the hell are you? Security. And you're trespassing. This is my mother's house. And she's asked you to leave. Sarah stared at the camera. Her face was red. What have you done, Mom? Security? What is wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with me, Sarah. I'm finally putting myself first. This is about money, isn't it? David was shouting now. You're cutting us out. There it was. The truth they'd been circling for months. Yes, I said calmly. I've made other arrangements. The house, the money, everything. It's no longer your concern. Sarah's mouth opened, closed. You can't do that. I already did. We're your children. And I was your mother. But you treated me like an obligation. Like a burden. Like something to manage until I died and you could collect. Amy was crying. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's true. I turned off the intercom. Watched them stand there, arguing among themselves, shouting at the camera. David tried the gate again. James warned him. Finally they left. One car, then another, then the third. The gate stayed closed. I sat down on the couch. And I cried. But this time the tears weren't from grief. They were from relief. Christmas Day was quiet. Helen invited me over. Her house was full of people from our various groups. The knitting circle, the book club, Mrs. Vasquez and her great-nephew. We ate. We laughed. We exchanged small gifts. Handmade scarves. Books. Cookies. Nobody asked about my children. Nobody made me feel guilty for choosing myself. I drove home that evening. The house was dark. I turned on the Christmas lights. Made tea. Sat by the tree. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I'm 73 now. I don't know how much time I have left. Nobody does. But however much time I have, it's mine. I spend my days with people who choose to be with me. Who value me. Who see me as a person, not a problem. My children call sometimes. I don't answer. Maybe someday I will. Maybe when enough time has passed. Maybe when they understand what they did. Maybe never. The grandchildren will get their education funds when they turn 18. They'll have a choice then. To know me or not. To understand my side or not. That's up to them. The house will go to charity. Habitat for Humanity will build homes for people who need them. That feels right. This house was built on love once. It should create love again. I learned something through all of this. Something important. Family isn't just blood. It's not obligation. It's not inheritance or guilt or duty. Family is the people who show up. Who see you. Who choose you, again and again. I have a family now. It's smaller than I expected. Different than I imagined. But it's real. And that's enough. More than enough. Some people might think I'm bitter. Maybe I am, a little. But mostly I'm free. I spent 50 years giving. Now I'm learning to receive. To accept love that doesn't come with conditions. To exist without apologizing for it. The gate stays closed. But my life has opened. And I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it's not an easy one. But I needed to tell it. Maybe someone out there needs to hear it. Maybe someone is sitting in their house right now, wondering if they're allowed to choose themselves. Wondering if they're allowed to close their own gate. You are. You're allowed. Your life is yours. Your time is yours. Your love is yours to give to people who deserve it. Don't wait as long as I did to learn that. If you found meaning in my story, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe to Grandparents' Memories in Life. Hit that like button. Turn on notifications. These stories matter. Our stories matter. We matter. Even when our children forget that. Especially then.